My friends said it was time to move on. A blind date. A fresh start. I really should have known it wouldn't be that simple. Because the moment she walked in, I realized my fresh start was a ghost from my past. The woman I once rejected, and she had absolutely no idea who I was. Section 1, The Setup. The restaurant buzzed with clinking glasses and quiet conversations. For most people here, tonight was about possibility. For me, it felt like an obligation. My friends, Mark and Sarah, had staged what they called a benevolent intervention last week. "Leo, you've been in a funk for a year," Sarah had said, "with that kind of concern you just can't argue with. You go to work, you come home, you watch documentaries about obscure historical events. You need to get out there." Mark, always the pragmatist, chimed in, "We know someone. She's great. Smart, funny, tired of the dating apps just like you. Her name is Clara. No pressure, just dinner." So here I was, nursing a glass of water, trying to ignore the cynical voice in my head. Blind dates are just so awkward, aren't they? A high-pressure performance where you try to be the best version of yourself for someone you might have nothing in common with. It's a total social minefield. Still, a tiny, traitorous part of me held on to a flicker of hope. A fresh start. Maybe they were right. My cynicism wasn't for nothing. I'd built it myself, a fortress around a single, echoing memory of regret. A memory from 8 years ago. The name they'd mentioned, Clara, hadn't even registered. It's a common name, and honestly, I was too busy being anxious about the date to make any connection. But now, sitting alone, my mind drifted back. Back to a different cafe, a different lifetime. I was 22, arrogant, and terrified. I'd met a girl in a literature class. She was brilliant, with a quiet confidence and a smile that could stop you in your tracks. We'd gone out a few times. The conversation was effortless. The connection was real. Too real. And it scared me. I was a kid playing at being an adult, convinced that settling down meant giving up. I remembered the exact moment I threw it all away. We were at a little place called the Grindhouse Cafe. I'd rehearsed the words, the classic, cowardly speech, "You're amazing, but I'm just not in a place for a relationship right now. It's not you, it's me." The cliché just hung there in the air. I remember the way her smile didn't just fade, it collapsed. Her eyes, which had been so full of light, clouded over with a hurt so deep it felt like a physical blow. But she didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just nodded. "I see," she said, her voice impossibly steady. "Well. Thanks for the coffee, Leo." And then she was gone, leaving me alone with the sour taste of my own failure. They say the pain of rejection can feel physical for a reason. I had inflicted that wound, and the guilt had been my phantom limb ever since, an ache that never really went away. For years, I wondered, what if? What if I hadn't been such a fool? A waiter came by and asked if I wanted to order. I shook my head, my throat suddenly dry. I'm, still waiting for someone. Waiting for a stranger named Clara. Waiting for a fresh start. Section 2, The Recognition. The little bell on the restaurant door chimed. I looked up. A woman stood there, silhouetted against the evening light, scanning the room. My breath caught in my chest. It couldn't be. Time had changed her, sure. The softness of youth was now a sharp, elegant confidence. Her hair was different, her clothes more sophisticated, but the way she held her head, that thoughtful intensity in her eyes, it was her. It was Clara. The Clara. My biggest regret was walking right towards me. My brain blue-screened. This had to be a joke. A cruel, cosmic prank from my well-meaning but clueless friends. She approached my table, a polite, questioning smile on her face. This is it, I thought. She's going to see me, that smile will vanish, and she'll turn right around and walk out. And I wouldn't blame her. But that's not what happened. She stopped at my table. "Leo?" she asked, her voice warm and completely unfamiliar. "Hi. I'm Clara." She had no idea. Not a single flicker of recognition. Nothing. My heart was a drum solo against my ribs. I stood, my hand feeling clammy as I shook hers. "Clara. Hi. It's great to meet you." The lie felt like swallowing sand. The history of us, a story entirely of my own making, was a secret only I knew. She sat down, and the date began. The first few minutes were a blur of blind date basics. We talked about Mark and Sarah, about our jobs. She was an architect, designing beautiful, sustainable buildings. I was a financial analyst, and my numbers suddenly felt incredibly dull. Outwardly, I was holding it together. I was smiling, asking questions. Inwardly, I was in a freefall. Every time she laughed, a genuine, happy sound, it was a fresh twist of the knife. This was the woman whose light I had tried to dim, and here she was, shining brighter than ever. I was a ghost at my own table. Then, the conversation drifted to college. "I went to Northwood University," she said casually. I froze. "Oh. Wow. Me too." I tried to keep my voice even. "Really? What year did you graduate?" she asked. 2017, I managed. "No way. Me too. Small world." Every question was a landmine. I answered vaguely, deflecting, trying to steer us to safer ground. But the universe seemed to enjoy my discomfort. Later, we were laughing about bad dating experiences. Then she said it. "Oh, I had one that really took the cake back in college. This guy I really, really liked. I thought we had a real connection. My blood ran cold. And then, out of nowhere, he gives me the whole, 'it's not you, it's me' speech. I was so hurt." She shook her head, a wry smile on her face now. Honestly, the pain of being rejected like that, it can really mess with your self-esteem. It makes you feel worthless for a while. But you know what? It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. It taught me to never again settle for someone who isn't sure about me. I just sat there, my smile frozen on my face. She was telling the story of my greatest failure as a funny anecdote. She had taken the hurt I caused her and forged it into strength. And I was the coward who couldn't even admit he was the villain in her story. The experience had clearly taught her about her own worth, while I was still trapped by my guilt. But here was the truly agonizing part. As the evening went on, the terror was replaced by something far more dangerous, a genuine connection. We discovered a shared love for old black and white films. We argued playfully about whether Hemingway or Fitzgerald was more overrated. We both agreed pineapple on pizza was a crime. She wasn't just a memory, she was a fascinating, intelligent, and captivating woman. And I was falling for her all over again, under the worst possible circumstances. Every laugh we shared felt like a betrayal. Every moment of chemistry was tainted by my secret. The longer I waited, the worse the lie became. I felt like a total fraud, and the weight of it was becoming unbearable. The restaurant started to empty out, leaving us in our own quiet bubble. The plates had been cleared for a while, but neither of us moved to leave. The conversation had shifted from light-hearted banter to something deeper. We were talking about our families, our fears, our hopes. "I have to admit," Clara said, her eyes sparkling in the candlelight, "I was so nervous about this. My friends mean well, but their setups can be a disaster." She let out a soft laugh. "But this was really nice, Leo. I had a really good time." Her words were a mix of pure joy and absolute dread. This was the moment. I could just smile, agree, and ask for a second date. I could have the fresh start I wanted, a chance to rewrite history by just erasing it. But looking at her, so open and honest, the lie was a physical weight in my chest. Starting over with her like this wouldn't be a new beginning, it would just be a new form of the same cowardice I'd shown her 8 years ago. She deserved more than that. She deserved the truth. My biggest regret wasn't just rejecting her, it was the dishonesty of it. I couldn't make that same mistake twice. My mind was screaming at me, just stay quiet. Don't ruin the one good thing that's happened to you in years. But a stronger voice cut through the noise. The voice of the man I wanted to be, not the boy I had been. I took a deep breath. Clara, I started, my voice low. I had a really good time too. More than good. But, there's something I have to tell you. Her smile faltered. Okay. This isn't the first time we've met. She frowned. It isn't. I have a terrible memory for faces. Was it a work thing? I shook my head slowly. No. It was a long time ago. We went to college together. We went on a couple of dates. About 8 years ago. At a place called the Grindhouse Cafe. I watched her face, searching for recognition. Nothing. And I ended things, I said, the words tasting like ash. I was an idiot. I was young and scared and I made the biggest mistake of my life. And I am so sorry. I let the words hang in the air. Her brow was still furrowed, her mind working. Then, I saw it. A flicker in her eyes. The pieces clicking into place. Her expression shifted from confusion to dawning realization, and then to a look of utter, ice-cold shock. The silence stretched on. The warmth between us just stared at me, replaced by a stunned, deafening silence. I could see a storm of emotions in her eyes, shock, confusion, and the ghost of a long-buried hurt. I don't believe this, she finally whispered. She looked away, down at her hands on the table. That was you? I could only nod. Yes. I didn't offer any excuses. There were none. I was a coward, I said quietly. I was immature and terrified of a real connection. What I did was inexcusable, and I've regretted it every single day since. She finally looked back up at me, her eyes filled with a deep, questioning sadness. Do you have any idea how much that hurt? She asked, her voice gaining a bit of strength. I spent months wondering what was wrong with me, what I had done. That kind of rejection when you're young, it leaves a mark. It makes you question your own worth. Her words weren't an attack, they were just a fact. I know, I said, my voice thick with shame. And seeing you tonight, seeing how incredible you are, it just makes my stupidity then seem even more colossal. Then why? She asked, her voice rising slightly. Why not say something the second you saw me? Why sit here for 3 hours and pretend? Why let me like you? Those last 3 words hit like a punch to the gut. That was the real crime, wasn't it? Letting her become vulnerable again, all while I held the truth, because I was a coward then, and I was a coward tonight, I admitted, the truth raw and ugly. Because for the first time in a very long time, I was happy. I was enjoying getting to know you, the woman you are now, and I was terrified that telling you the truth would make you walk away. I didn't want you to walk away. I looked at her, asking for nothing. I don't expect you to forgive me. I couldn't build something new with you on top of such an old lie. Clara was quiet for a long moment, studying my face. The shock faded, leaving a thoughtful, complicated expression. She let out a long, slow sigh. Then, a tiny, ironic smile touched her lips. You paid for my coffee then, too, she said softly. You can get this one. She gathered her purse and stood up. I need to think. And with that, she turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving me alone once again. But this time, the silence wasn't empty. It wasn't a rejection, not entirely. It wasn't forgiveness, either. It was a pause. A chance. It was the fragile, uncertain possibility of a true second beginning. CTA. What would you have done? Should he have told her the truth, or was the past better left buried? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you believe in second chances, make sure to like and subscribe for more stories about the complicated nature of love. Conclusion. Sometimes a fresh start isn't about forgetting the past, but about having the courage to finally face it. For Leo, this blind date wasn't the end of his story with Clara, but maybe the beginning of a much more honest one. It's a reminder that our biggest regrets often come not just from the chances we didn't take, but from the truths we were too afraid to tell.